It's Friday, the 18th of May, 2012. I'm Alex Jones, and this is another edition of Infowars Nightly News.
Tonight.
They rape your privacy on the phone. They rape your privacy on the email. They rape your daughter in the airport. They rape your son in schools. How long are you going to sit and put up with being raped?
Alex Jones speaks with FBI translator and 9/11 whistleblower Sibel Edmonds. Then, the war against our children. Another child is ripped from its parents and fed psychotropic drugs by Child Protective Services. Plus, Chicago prepares for the invasion of NATO as 40 federal agents man secret command centers outside the city. All that and more on the Infowars Nightly News.
Coming up first, we're going to look at Obama and the absolute proof on top of proof that he was not born in this country and is being blackmailed. And then some very painful information we have to cover, but please bear with us for this. Warning, though, you probably don't want your children watching this. Well, maybe you do, so they understand that how criminal the state is and how they're preying on them. So I guess children do have to see this, even though it's dangerous and scary and frightening, so that they understand that they cannot trust the system, they cannot trust their teachers, they cannot trust their doctors, they can trust no one but their parents, because we are living in a total New World Order, Soviet/fascist nightmare where they've combined every system of authoritarianism. Giant kidnapping rings, murdering children en masse coming up. I'm not kidding. You're going to see total proof of this. Shakes me to my very core. I spent most of the radio show today on this. That's coming up. First off, let's look at Barack Obama. I wasn't a birther 4.5 years ago. I was like, really? Born in Kenya? I mean, why would they do that? Then I learned that Hillary had used it against him. She'd brought it forward because she had all the FBI dossiers. The Clintons still run Washington, basically. So they're in their third term through blackmailed Obama. And I learned all the background. His wife, Michelle, in speeches saying he was born in Kenya. They visited his homeland. We've played those clips before. Just type in Michelle, says that Obama visited his homeland, Kenya. You'll get the video clips. It's all over the place. His fake first birth certificate, the second fake one was ridiculously fake. A 5-year-old made it. I mean, it's unbelievable, with a fake typewriter font where all the typewriter fonts are the same when each one is different. The fact that he was Barry Soetoro, and they denied that in Indonesia, and then later they went, oh, yeah, he was Barry Soetoro, and, you know, got Indonesian citizenship. You can only give up your U.S. citizenship and get that at the time. It's all on record. All the weirdness, the CIA family, all of it. Why would they want someone who wasn't a U.S. born to blackmail him and to get everybody involved in a lie so big that no one would want to challenge it? Because all the laws he signed on to in the last 3.5 years, they're null and void. That's the big enchilada right there. That's the big kahuna. Paul Watson has a big article breaking all of this down at Infowars.com. But Breitbart broke it yesterday. It turns out his literary agent, his publicist that he still uses from 91 to 2007, that's 16.5 years, said that he was born in Kenya and then lived in Indonesia and Hawaii. Well, that's what our research shows. And you got researchers going over there and trying to see his birth certificate and being detained and arrested like Dr. Corsi. You've got things going on there as well. I mean, I'm just giving you some background right now. Bush, we later learned, this is official State Department. It's public info. It's in our article. Evidence Obama born in Kenya goes beyond 1991 brochure. And you learned that Obama, the Bush administration sent their ambassador to find out to the Kenyans. They said, was he born here? Because Hillary's saying this. And they said, yeah, we've gone to the birth files. It's been cut out. It appears to be a criminal action. So you don't cut out records that weren't there. You understand that? Oh, well, he's not there. Well, don't cut it out. They cut it out. And so it just piles up. And then, boom, for 16 plus years, they put out different publications, including promotion of his book, Dreams of My Father, saying born in Kenya, first president of the Law Review who was black at Harvard. I mean, this is wild. Born in Kenya and raised in Indonesia. And there's the Breitbart watermark on there. And the media came out and said, you know what, it's a typo. You're right, for 16 plus years we said this. I mean, folks, this is in publications every month promoting him. This is in big magazines. This is everywhere and never corrected it. I mean, give me a break. If the media said in the New York Times or Washington Post that I was born in Russia or born in China or born in Timbuktu, I would go on air and say, correct that. Man, we are in deep trouble. I mean, I already knew he wasn't born here, and we don't know who he really is. He's got all these other fake names, and all his records are sealed. But to really come to grips with, wow, we're right again. You know, I want to be wrong. You understand? I don't want it to be so bad. I don't want this to be true. We're the only teleprompter-free news in the country. You think I'm happy about that? Oh, we're the only teleprompter-free. Wow, that makes us different. Wow, we'll be successful. It means nothing I have 15 viewers and listeners a week, 3 million a day. Because conservative. It's over 1.5 million now on the websites every day. You think I'm glad about that? Well, I'm glad I can reach people, but it's not about Alex Jones, folks. It's about you taking action and you doing little things every day that'll bring these people down. People are like, well, big deal if he's born in Kenya. What's the big deal? Folks, he's totally compromised. The Clintons wanted to beat him. Then they found out about this and blackmailed him at Bilderberg. I was there covering it. About to go again in a couple weeks, a week and a half. I can't believe this is already upon us. You think I'm happy to go to Bilderberg? I got to do it. It's a responsibility. You think it's fun? I don't want to scare you, folks, the stuff I went through last time. This is real is what I'm saying. That just blows me away. Within hours of this, the text editor of the big PR firm that he still is listed with came out and said, oh, I'm sorry, it's a mistake. That's where this whole rumor came from. Really, no one knew about this the last 4.5 years. It was all the other fake documents. So don't say the birther rumor came from your original information that was wrong. You understand how they spin things? I mean, what a transparent spin right there. The vetting, exclusive, Obama literary agent, 91 booklet, born in Kenya and raised in Indonesia and Hawaii. It doesn't get any more bombshell than that. Now, let's shift gears to what was my top story for over 2.5 hours, or right at 2.5 hours, of the daily radio show. Get teleprompter free, folks. I'm going to stumble sometimes. Actually using the old noggin, not stuff the CIA writes and I read off a teleprompter. Think about this. We supposedly live in the freest country in the world, and we have 7+ million people in the prison system, double what China has with 1.3 million people. They have 1.3 billion people. We have 310 million people in our country, the most wealthy, powerful country in the world because we had basic liberty. It created incredible wealth. Now we've been taken over by the globalist parasites, and China, who has 1.3 billion people, has half the prisoners the United States has with 310 million. They've got like 9 times our population, roughly, and they have half the prisoners we have. This is not freedom. The CIA admitting they're spying on us without warrants and operating domestically illegally. That's not freedom. Street lights going up nationwide with your taxpayer money to listen to you and watch you, and the system saying, yeah, we're watching you and listening to you, better shut up. Banning free speech and protests in Chicago because the globalists are coming to town. That's not freedom. TSA sticking their hands down your pants. IRS taking houses without warrants or due process or real courts or proof for the Federal Reserve. Fraud. Banks taking people's houses when they fully own them without deeds. Total fraud. We're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in the Republic anymore. People go, well, don't bash America. I'm not. I want to get our Republic back. And to do that, we've got to admit just how serious things have gotten, just how hardcore things are. Now, I was supposed to be in a debate this morning with Tucker Carlson on the radio at 7 a.m. on a syndicated radio show, Bubba the Love Sponge. And I was watching videos on Infowars and got so upset when I saw this first video of a little girl, 3 years old, healthy and happy in videos, and like a Skeletor concentration camp victim with pus coming out of her eyes and black teeth and totally skinny after CPS grabbed her for no reason. This is in Houston. This is on Fox News, and put her on antipsychotic drugs that literally eat your brain. I got so upset that I didn't even do I just forgot about the debate and went, you know, I already knew about all this. I already know they drug over 2/3 of foster children, kill thousands a year just in Texas alone. There's been WOAI TV investigations, but nothing's ever done. The Texas Youth Commission, they had public rapings where people went and paid at the CPS facilities to rape small children. That all came out 5 years ago. Nobody got in trouble for that. And all this stuff's just flashing back all over the country. 3,400 kids missing, CNN reported in Florida. Many of them found dead in CPS custody. I mean, all flying them out of the country to Saudi Arabia. Again, there's so much evil, I can't keep track of it all. And so I see this, and it's like a flashback. It's like post-traumatic. I'm being hit with all this stuff, and I go, okay, I'm going to cover this today, but I just can't show this Fox News video out of Houston. I've got to go show them some of the background. So I start sending stories to the guys about them taking little kids and testing pesticides and radiation on them a few years ago. This isn't going on in the 50s till they die. And U.S. troops being put in chambers to be nerve gassed and murdered. And I'm thinking, my God, this government is so criminal. How did I ever deny to myself just how out of control this is? I'm not hardcore enough. I'm not doing enough. And it just kept hitting me and hitting me and hitting me and hitting me and hitting me. That we live in a crazy Twilight Zone episode. But I mean, Hitler killing tens of millions, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, Fidel Castro, it goes on and on. This is the norm with these scum we let get in control and do what they say, because in our evolutionary development, or whatever you want to call it, we do what the leader says. We believe the chief wants the tribe to survive. That was the case 10,000 years ago. It's not the case today. And we've got to grow up and realize this. I mean, you look at the stuff that Hitler and Mao and them did. I mean, it's like, why would Mao kill 60+ million people in just a few years? Because he could. He did all these evil things to get into power so he could do that. A psychopath that kills a few hundred when they're just a general is going to kill 1 million when he gets in charge. Don't you understand that? They do it because they like it. They do it because they enjoy it. They're like, Jeffrey Dahmer, why'd you kidnap little kids and torture them and inject them in the brain to make them sex zombies? He's because I like it. Ted Bundy, why'd you do that? John Wayne Gacy, why'd you do that? Because I like it. Why'd you grab teenagers and torture them and kill them? Because I like to. They're just psychos that get in control, and they hire other psychos and create these giant colony creature guilds against us. Good people have to get together. See, good people are not joiners. We're not looking for power. We just want to be happy and good. We're not malfunctioning. We're not cancer cells. But what happens on the low level, the small microscopic level, happens on the giant level. And so as a globe with the skin of life growing on the surface of it in this thin atmosphere, the planisphere does have a cancer. The globalists are always saying humanity's a cancer, it needs to be killed. They're actually the cancer. The tiny group of elite are malfunctioning and keeping the human destiny from fully reaching its potential. They are the cancer. They act just like it. A normal person who doesn't have degenerate programming is like, you want to wear black uniforms and beat people and spy on folks and have big martial parades and give each other awards all day? I don't want that. That's because you're normal. But for them, it's beautiful. Do you understand that? And so I saw this report we're going to get to at the end of this where they grab people because the parents smoke marijuana or whatever. And you know when you go in to get a medical procedure now, they do a blood test. They don't tell you have a right to remain silent without a warrant for getting your blood. It's all through the health departments that were eugenics departments set up in 1910, 1915, depending on the city, depending on the state, where they're all spying on you. It's when you have a baby, you got plenty of money, you doing all right? Oh, we're making ends meet, coming for your kids. Because you're poor now. See, they want your kid. They're hunting you. They're after you. This is the system. Now, conservative estimates of the 1 million+ children grabbed a year, over 50,000 nationwide end up dying in government custody. We've got the numbers up in articles at Infowars.com. Now, just bad drug interactions are over 100,000 a year, the government admits. 69% or over 2/3 are put on psychotropics, an average of 7, including antipsychotics that cause permanent brain damage. And you see these children, I mean, they kill them. Once they start having the convulsions after 7 drugs, then they put them on anticonvulsants. They know in actuaries it's going to kill a large percentage. They then even take insurance policies out in the government on them, like Walmart does with those greeters. Oh, it's so nice. They hired the old lady. You wonder why she looks like she's about to die. They know in actuaries the payout. They can put a couple mil on her. The family never even knows about it. And when she dies while she's working with them, they take the insurance. Oh, you thought they hired the 81-year-old lady who looks like she's about to die on a cane to say hi to you? She's there to die to make them some insurance cash. Oh, but they're cold-blooded. See, you're not ready to wake up to the full horror, so you're not going to be able to resist them. Knowing is half the battle. The devil's greatest trick was he didn't exist. So I'm sorry this is so hardcore, but this is the facts. Now, first I thought we would, before we get into all this evidence of the current stuff, Bayer Corps Science, Crop Life America, Human Pesticide Testing Policy. And I first learned about this 6 years ago in a New York Daily News article that's been taken down now, but we have it saved at Infowars.com, where they were taking little black kids, I mean, and others, but mainly blacks, and testing pesticides on foster children until they died. And the little kids would try to escape, one 7-year-old, and they strapped him down and gave him the pesticides and killed him. And the CPS workers had a moment of clarity and came out and said, we're not going to do this, and tattled. They got fired. The killing continues. So there is that report. I can show you a document cam shot of that. And Bayer Corps Science plotted human pesticide testing policy. And because when this came out in 2005, they were killing people with pesticides. They tried to get a law passed or a policy passed that they could do that. And we have links. Just type in foster children pesticide. You'll get all the mainstream news. But they're like, oh, it was kind of not nice to kill them, but they did. Nobody gets in trouble. Okay. Here's another one. This is Associated Press, saved at Infowars.com. It's part of the First Amendment to defend us against tyranny. Feds tested AIDS drugs on foster kids, lethal ones. You know, it's the AIDS drugs mainly killing people. These are like hardcore, basically chemotherapy drugs. Again, this all broke in 2005. The rabbit hole went very, very deep. This is Organic Consumers Association alert EPA to allow pesticide testing on orphans and mentally handicapped children. Again, that's after they got caught, like when Bush got caught spying without warrants or torturing, which was illegal. He tried to then get it legalized. Remember, that's standard policy, so there's the Associated Press. Here's the Israel Insider we have saved. In my film Endgame, we have local Israeli newscasts. 110,000 children were radiated. Over 40,000 of them died. They gave them different dosages. The U.S. paid for this. They would take the brown-skinned Sephardic, not the Ashkenazi, and radiate them to death, murdering them, many of them on the spot. They'd actually cook them onto the table. And don't worry, I've got, Department of Energy admits, from the 40s through the 80s, now it's all secret, radiating children. They put little babies, foster babies, in these basters and hit them with such high-powered radiation that in some of these reports, they would actually be cooked onto the metal. That's nice government, though. They wouldn't stage 9/11. Everything is fine. And again, Government Employees Union tell EPA don't expose kids to pesticide experiments. And that's peer.org. EPA scientists, you can go read that in press releases. Actually, EPA scientists have come out 3 separate times, 90+% of them, thousands signing doctors, chemists, you name it, saying don't put sodium fluoride in the water. Causes cancer, but you know what? They're not going to stop because they love killing you too much. Here it is, WOAI. We saved this at the time. That's why we save it. It's down now. 2 out of 3 foster children in Texas on psychotropic medication. A doctor in the system here, we played the newscast at the time, went public and said, yeah, I've seen kids come in totally healthy, and within 6 months, they're on 7 drugs. Within a year, they're on anti-convulsion drugs, and then they die. So because they get more money when they make them special needs. And if you're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you cry for mommy when they take you into a big, dirty facility with all these other kids raping you, 7 times more likely to be sexually abused, Justice Department's own numbers, and CPS care, 7 times more likely to get an STD, 5 times more likely to be generally abused. When you come out, 5 times more likely to end up getting up in prison. Unless you become a CPS worker. The weird thing is a lot of them become CPS workers because it's part of the pedophile network they're now part of. So we've got a guest audience today. Aaron's mom's here today. I'm afraid she's hearing a particularly hardcore show. But you're down from Houston way, aren't you? You're down in Sugar Land. Right by you in Houston's one of their main kidnapping facilities. Good to see you, though. Good. We have the Endgame video. Before we go to more articles, let me just show you. When we were exposing this in 2007, and I had medical doctors and others on, people like Dr. Breeding he's a psychologist, were at the state hearings. He said, you need to go dig that up. I was there. There should be an online video. The head of the state board, the head psychiatrist said, yeah, we do have 2/3 of the kids on psychotropics. Suzanne Hupp, representative, you know, she survived the Luby shooting. She said, hey, 2/3 are on these drugs and they're dying from them. And how do you just take little kids and put them on drugs that aren't even approved for people? under the age of 10. He goes, they come from bad gene pools. A eugenics answer. So let's go to a clip from Endgame. When I was in the movie theater and first showed Endgame, people laughed, and then I showed more articles, London Guardian, where they drug the woman to get the baby, and it's drugs that cause brain damage. 3 U.S. states have been doing it for 5 years. Oregon was the first, and now England's doing it. And at birth, they put cameras in many of the homes now of parents in a pre-crime, and if you don't, the baby, if you ever do anything wrong, they go throw them in a big dirty dungeon with pedophiles. I'm not kidding. Again, this is what's all going on under everybody's nose. My words cannot describe to you what I've personally seen fighting these people. And I'll be honest, it was so horrific that I had to quit or I would have become violent. I had to quit going and physically looking at them, because when you're in a room with a bunch of them laughing with a crying family for no reason, and the kid's crying and they're getting off on it, you can tell they're taking the kid off to rape them. Let me tell you something. I mean, let me tell you, this, and by the way, if this is freaking you out, it should. This is going on everywhere right now. Over 1 million kids they get. And they always have ads and TV, oh, this was a bad parent beating their kid. There are bad parents, but they're many times more likely to be abused by the system. You understand? Statistically, it's a no-brainer. 5 to 7 times better off getting rid of the CPS entirely. In the old days, if somebody saw somebody really hurt their kid, there were criminal charges. Or in the old days, if your neighbor saw you really hurting your kid, you come over, hey, Bill, you shouldn't be doing that. You got a problem at work. You want to do that? Do that to me. And that's what it's come down to. The state is a bunch of scum. And look, all the literature, they say they got bad gene pools. Eugenics never went away. You know, that's what Hitler did. He got it from the U.S. and England. 35 states, if you made less than a B+ in school, they sterilized you. Endgame, I have copies of the newsreels and the report cards. Have you forgotten all this? See, they don't tell you this on the news, folks. That's why this show is so valuable. That's why I've gotten so angry and aggressive. Because refocusing on this, literally, I feel like I could kick the butt of about 20 people right now. And that's my normal instinct when children are being hurt by a saber-toothed tiger or by a tribe that's invaded your area. It's time to stomp and go after some people. That's a normal instinct. How did you lose your normal instinct that when you hear a baby squeal, whether it's a bear or whatever, our ancestors killed cave bears twice the size of grizzlies with their bare hands and with spears. Our ancestors defeated all of what nature challenged them with our minds and our guts. And now look what we've become. We let our own species do this to us. I don't know what's wrong with you out there, but it's time to get angry. It's time to recognize the enemy. And it's time to come after them in the info war, to identify them as the criminal guilds they are. And it's time to ask God to lead us and guide us and direct us in the prosecution of the war against these people. Like I said last week, their genocide against us starts now. We're fighting back. The war has begun. And when they kill us and shut us down and persecute us, it only makes us stronger. We're drawing the enemy out. How can you sit there and worry about your reputation and your career while they're raping kids right now? And those kids are begging for help, just like Kelly Thomas begging for his daddy as a full-grown man as the wolves tortured him to death. None of us are safe until we stand up. What is wrong with you? I know, sodium fluoride, massive brainwashing, it doesn't matter. You still got the human destiny in you. You still got the instincts, and they can override all that right now. My problem is I got even more here. Look at this. Texas foster care investigation. Child as young as 3 are drugged with antipsychotics. Folks, you can't even give these unless it's state-approved to psychotic people because they eat your brain. We got that report. And here's the one that sent me back down the rabbit hole of looking at all this information. 3-year-old CPS are overprescribed psychotic drugs. Overprescribed? They're not even approved in people under 10. Antipsychotics, under 5, they don't care. Hundreds of thousands are on it. Over 2/3, they take little kids, and when you cry, the big fat demons, they don't feel like raping them, which is most of them. They just sit there and warehouse them, and I got articles where they're drowning all the time, being killed, being raped, being sold into sex slavery. CNN reported like 5 years ago, 3,000 plus missing kids in Florida, and they started finding them with their heads chopped off in different countries and in graves. The story just went away. I mean, the big thing is they fly these little kids out and torture them and rape them, and I'm bad because I don't like that? I'm bad because I still got red blood and will face the reality? I'm bad? No, you're bad out there making jokes about this. Let me tell you, Those that serve this evil consciously are one thing, and they're going to get theirs. But those of you that think all this is funny, let me tell you, that's why you're so miserable and cursed. Let me tell you, you will be brought to justice one way or another. I know it, okay? I have total certainty. In fact, okay, let's just stop right there. You've got a compilation of videos, don't you, There's so many. Let's go to a compilation. You can watch the whole thing at MyFox. 3-year-olds and CPS care overprescribed psychiatric drugs is like, oh, the robber overprescribed bullets he shot into the child's body. He shot him 50 times. He only should have shot the child 5 times. You know, or the robber only hacked the child up with should have hit him with a hatchet 6 times instead of 45 times. Let's go to a compilation of these. I've always told you, I mean, I've seen the CPS. It's either fat, pot-bellied, little skinny mustache pedophile archetype men. That's a small drone sect. It's mainly giant fat women. Half the brigades are black. Another 40% are white brigade of pot-bellied women, giant people. I mean, I'm not bashing fat people, just it's always the same. I've fought these people. They always gibber, giggle, love it when families cry, suck up the pain. Well, they're psychic vampires. That's what they are. They're psychic vampires. And, of course, these demons are going to wonder why they get cancer when they're 42. I mean, in fact, I can tell you right now, these women, you enjoy your life because you've got an express elevator to hell. Okay? But that's who these people are. Yeah, it's faces of death. And again, nothing against people that are fat from all the poison GMOs, the rest of it, Lord knows I've been. I'm saying I've never seen a CPS worker that didn't look like a brain bug from Starship Troopers. Okay? And I mean, that's all I've got to say. And that's because it's a spiritual thing. And again, I've been in the courts. The enjoyment that they get is incredible. Let's go to the faces of death, what they do to a little girl. I know I shouldn't talk bad about them because they're the little girl they keep grabbing because the mommy got tested positive for marijuana or whatever. You know, no criminal record, kid's fine, this is what you do to them. And then you put the kid on a bunch of drugs and turn him into a drooling zombie. Let's go to the crimes against little girls right now.
Here's a picture of Rachel that was taken 1 week before CPS took custody of her. Here she is in January, after 6 months in CPS's care.
Well, every time we'd go to see her at visitation,
she was skinnier.
She would get skinny and she'd, just be lethargic, not wanting to move, not wanting to say hi, and just sort of sit in the corner and just keep to herself.
Not even play.
And that's not her.
She would be drooling at the mouth, her tongue would be hanging out, and I asked them, I said, is she on drugs? They said no.
But in a January court hearing, CPS admitted that the then 3-year-old was put on a number of psychotropic drugs, including risperidone, a drug commonly used to treat schizophrenia. They take her away.
That is the face of the New World Order. Suffer the little children, lest you be thrown into the deepest ocean with a millstone tied around your neck. And to watch how those women, CPS workers, laugh when they destroy families, they really enjoy the pain. It makes them feel big and powerful. And they are the abusers. Statistically, they are the most dangerous group out there is the CPS. Let's just run through some more here. There's just too much. CPS involved in child trafficking. And it goes through people speaking out about state-sponsored kidnapping of her daughter. Amazing information. Continuing with other news, CPS warrior Nancy Schaefer gunned down. Associated Press, she'd called me a week before and said, in a few weeks, I'm going to come on your show. I have evidence, she's state senator in Georgia at the time, a few years ago, that they do have lists and they do have quotas and they're picking up kids for these rich families. And her and her husband committed suicide with firearms that weekend. Anybody believe that? Got a bridge I am ready to sell you on Pluto. Here is a clip of the late senator clearly murdered by a mafia hit team because she wanted to cut in on their child trafficking operations.
For 4 years, I have been confronted with families struggling to remove their children from the clutches of Child Protective Services. I wrote a scathing report last year on the corruption in Child Protective Services, and an update and copies are out on the table. The Department of Child Protective Services has become a protected empire built on taking children and separating families. This is not to say that there are not those children who do need to be removed from wretched situations and need protection. However, my report is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping. Having worked with probably 300 cases statewide and hundreds across the country, and in nearly every state, I am convinced there is no accountability in child protective services. The Adoption and the Safe Families Act, set in motion first in 1974 by Walter Mondale and later in 1997 by President Bill Clinton, offered cash bonuses to the states for every child they adopted out of foster care. Some counties often offer $4,000 to $6,000 bonus for each child adopted out to strangers, and an additional $2,000 for a special needs child. Employees work to keep the federal dollars flowing. The National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect in 1998 reported that 6 times more children died in foster care than in the general public, and that once removed to official safety, these children are far more likely to suffer abuse, including sexual molestation, than in the general population. Think what that number is today, 10 years later.
She committed suicide with her husband a few weeks after that, and she called me. She said, I want to come on the next week. I've got the proof. This is incredible. Well, they knew you had the proof, honey, but you're in a better place than they're going. That lady was so great. She was really hurting him in Georgia. I mean, she was really exposing him. All the kids they were killing and hurting and drugging, and they went over and they murdered her and her husband, something fierce. If they ever come to my house and kill me and my family, no, it's a lie. Gary Webb sent me a disc, and I wasn't very good at websites. You know, when he got killed, I had Infowars, but it was a Pulitzer Prize winner. And he said, can you make a website with all these documents? I want to put this on, and I never even got around to it. And, you know, that stuff was all public. It was this Pulitzer Prize winning research. So don't send a hit team to kill me because you think I have some secret dossier. But he had a new book coming out to vindicate himself. And hell, now they grow the opium publicly in Afghanistan. And he had told myself and others, including Silica Still and Ricky Ross, guys have been breaking in his house, you name it, he'd moved. He'd seen special forces types coming off his roof, going right down the drain pipes like in movies. And they came to his house, had him sign a letter that he was going to kill himself, and then shot him twice in the head. It looks like at the end he struggled because they blew his jaw off and then shot him in the back of the head. And within minutes of the announcement, oh, it was suicide. It's always when you know it's staged. Breitbart, he had a heart attack. Minutes after we heard he was at the hospital. Just don't ask questions. About to release the fact that, you know, Obama was meeting with communists and Bill Ayers and others, and you're dead. We're so high profile, they haven't killed me yet. But, I mean, it's like they're torturing kids everywhere. How am I supposed to be afraid of being killed? I mean, it's like no-brainer. If you saw a gang of thugs beating a 5-year-old, I mean, most women I know, they saw 5 big men beating a 5-year-old. Most women I know would charge in and try to defend the child. What has happened to us as a society? I mean, we've got to face these people and damn the maneuvers. Go straight at them. I mean, this is not a debate anymore. Or just give up your humanity and roll over so you can watch TV and eat and have fun and go on a vacation. I mean, people are like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I think I'll do that. Really? That's what life's about, is about being a big sack of crap? I mean, is that what it's really all about? It's being a mindless coward that just buys into a false reality and plays into what the controllers think while they hurt children? Well, fine. There's always a bunch of couch potatoes in history. Not me and not our viewers and listeners and compatriots, comrades, those that love liberty, men, women of every race, color, creed, and religion out there. We're coming straight on to the New World Order, and we're not backing down. We're taking them down. That's the end of it. No amount of scientific propaganda or fluoride's going to help you, New World Order. We're going to get you, and you know it. That's why you're scared. You're not arrogant like you were a few years ago. You're throwing it all in our face right now to acclimate us. And let me tell you something, you chicken-neck globalist psychologist, it ain't working, okay? I see you, and I see exactly what you are. You look like your last year's guacamole bowl. I see exactly what you are, and you look like the portrait of Mr. Gray. You look like a dead horse. All right. Here's one out of KLTV. 4-year-old drowns while in foster care. And I see these reports where they go, all the children will die. It's just the way it is in CPS care. Kids becoming nobody's children. Hillsborough, Florida, 9-year-old autistic girl went missing Saturday afternoon, according to Hillsborough County Sheriffs. She was autistic. Yeah, well, they find them in graves all the time. Doesn't matter. Because it's the government. You know, nobody's going to watch them. Father harassed by CPS for feeding kids organic food. Oh, yeah, they take vegans' kids all the time, too. Just any reason. there's no law. They just say, hey, it's all over the news. Police pull you over now, and even if you got $100 in your wallet, they take it. That's drug money. That's drug money right there. I'm going to take that from you right now. Roscoe Pico train. I wish we had Roscoe Pico train. He was a nice guy compared to this. Judge orders parents to vaccinate baby. That's in Australia. Brisbane Times. That's also happening here. There's no law, but they're a eugenics court. They're not a real court with due process. There's no jury here. Just some pervert judge. Continuing, pediatrician calls state trooper Child Protective Services on mother for refusing to vaccinate child. Another report right there. That's just some of what's going on. And they are killing thousands of kids a year. It is a Holocaust. They are murdering them en masse. And are you their champion? Will you stand for them? Will you defend them? Will you not watch the baseball game tonight? Will you not go act tough with your buddies and walk out with tattoos? I'm not saying your tattoos are bad, but you know what I mean? And act tough at the bar and look at your motorcycle. I'm tough. And if you're like, so they're killing some kids. I'm going to go see my girlfriend and act tough. Okay. Now you're aiding and abetting it. Now you're part of it. Because that's why I'm here. I'm here to make sure you were told and had a choice. Feel that little tingle back of your neck? That's your soul getting in the elevator to go straight to hell. You don't believe in hell? Your dark energy is going to go somewhere. And it sure isn't going to go towards the light, is it? I don't care what religion you are. There's good and evil, ladies and gentlemen. And you will pay. You're like, oh, I don't believe in religion, spirits. We're on a planet going through space here. You looked around you. Magic's all around you, ladies and gentlemen. This whole life is a test. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. And I'm not going to even sit here and talk about it. But let me tell you something. This stuff's real. Devil went down to Georgia. That's real. It's all real. All right, let's go ahead and get into the news here tonight. NATO summit. They use G20, NATO, Fortune 500, any meeting of globalist crooks to shut down a city, hire provocateurs to break some windows so they can physically assault any peaceful protesters, and they get caught and they don't care. But they're just saying no protest allowed, no freedom. They're sound cannoning people randomly in Chicago as part of a public service announcement. They're now hitting them with stuff that damages your mental ear. And that's in the news. 40 federal agencies are now revealed in a secret command bunker, basically just training for martial law. So there's that report. Also, Chicago cop disappears. Activist ahead of NATO War Council. Yeah, they always just go and arrest a bunch of activists as part of a martial law mini drill. And they even admit with the G20 when Rob got arrested, I was pointing, they were snatching and grabbing men in uniforms, peaceful protesters, and throwing them in cars. That was a psyop to test the media to see if they can get away with snatch and grabs, which they now admit under the NDAA. And I got called, and the number, Rob Jacobson was here. He showed me. He goes, we got a call. This says G20 security. And I called, and they go, yeah, that's security. You're not getting another call. But that was not U.S. Army personnel that grabbed those protesters. That was our security. And it turned out they were in command. Private, unnamed security commanded the Army, the police, everybody. Everywhere they go, whether it's Australia or Canada or the U.S. or Germany or London, where guys delivering newspapers a few years ago to a G20 summit to a little hole-in-the-wall shop. He goes, the film got released. He goes, I have newspapers. And they just beat him to death. The cops had a celebration of their power. It was their power. It was their power. It was their enjoyment. So there is that report. Cops disappearing activists. Well, that sounds like freedom. What's wrong with that? I got to disappear people, and that's freedom. Undercover CPS or CPD, Chicago Police Department, cops don't like being filmed. We'll show you a clip of that. And then We Are Change talks to the superintendent of the Chicago Police Department, Gary McCarthy, about agent provocateurs. He was going to do a press conference, but when he heard about provocateurs, I got one that can see. He's right here at the corner of 5th and Liberty. They're like, get out of there. And he's like, phew. That's what happens. When they see that you can see, they go, whoa, because their ether they swim in like a fish is ignorance. And they just love the fact you're blind. They love the fact you're not aware of them. They're like barracuda. And until you wake up, they've just got you. It's like you're blind and these vampires can have their way with you. But the minute you wake up to history and your human potential and everything, you just go, phew. It's like they're like, no, no, shut down the web more, seeing. Do not allow this. Let's go to that next clip. There's two of them.
Noel Ralseo, independent journalist here in Chicago covering the NATO summit. You know, we're on Michigan Avenue, and we saw two plainclothes officers walk out of an undercover squad car. I decided to take a picture of it and walk up to them and see what would happen, and this is the footage that we got. Plainclothes officer, right?
Why are you taking my picture?
Because we were trying to document this weekend events, and we just thought it was...
I don't want you taking my picture. Do you understand that?
It's a public sidewalk, sir.
Yeah, it's a public sidewalk.
I don't want you taking my picture.
Okay, I understand, sir. I understand.
So you can take my picture too? Or... We were just wondering, it was interesting seeing plainclothes officer, you guys coming out of the undercover car. So we're just trying to...
Who are you with?
Who am I with? Chicago.
You realize if I get shot someday because of this stupid being on the internet or wherever?
Shot, what, by a terrorist?
You never know.
What terrorist?
You never know.
What terrorist? The domestic
I got your picture.
Okay, I'm fine with that, sir.
You got my picture?
Who are you with?
Myself. Who are you with?
Who are you with?
Who are you with?
I'm telling you, get the camera out of my...
I'm not in your face. I'm clearly 5 feet away from you.
If you guys have something to hide, it's okay, but we're not doing anything illegal.
Keep it up.
Public sidewalk.
All right, stop right there. Stop right there. We'll go to the next clip in a moment. Again, this is the essence of tyranny you're witnessing right now. Now, remember Luke in Chicago where the guy's going, oh, like you're taking my picture. I'm going to call you in as a terrorist. No, you're not, but you're going to go away for a while. And I know they say sir to show how out of control they are. But, I mean, you shouldn't say sir to some sack of crap nerd wimps trying to act tough to intimidate everybody. But that's who they are. They're the worst in society that can't get a woman who are nobodies. They go join the system to dominate and hurt us and tell us in America. In Illinois, they've had the state go down to towns and try to put people in prison for life for filming police. Now, that isn't criminals. I don't know what is. That shows how sick and reprobate and bankrupt these people are. Let's go to the next clip as the superintendent of police absolutely throws a hissy and runs like a vampire at high noon when he's asked about false flag provocateurs.
Will the Chicago PD be using agent provocateurs, police officers dressed up as block anarchists like we've seen in other large demonstrations across the country? What? Will you be using police provocateurs, agent provocateurs dressed as black bloc members during the NATO demonstrations? Because other police departments have done that at the NATO and G8 summits to instigate violence.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Will you have...
Provocateurs that happened in Montebello.
All right, guys, we're done. I'll see you. See ya.
Guess that wasn't a good question to ask.
You see, these guys think they're part of the inside, some little police chief ingesting fluoride, he's probably got a, kid at home that's autistic, statistically. He's soft-killed, he's already gone. But it doesn't matter, he's let in on the little secrets. He's like, superintendent of police in Chicago, let me tell you, he probably hangs out with Don Corleone every day. This is amazing. Most corrupt city in the U.S., I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm getting out of here right now. Hey, why don't you join humanity, man? Really, you're older. What is having a mustache and a police outfit done for you? People kiss your butt at the steakhouse? Okay. Before you know it, you're going to be 75 years old with terminal cancer. And back then, back in the day, which is right now, don't you want to look back and wish you'd done something right now? All these years later. But it's not all these years later. You've got a chance now to do something. Teleprompter free news. One more little giblet here. Secret interpretation of Patriot Act will remain secret. Federal courts are now saying, well, we're going to say we can secretly arrest you and disappear you and break into your house and stuff, and we're going to keep that ruling secret, too, because it'll make us look bad. Boy, we talk about the Germans. How did they let this happen to their country? How do we let this happen to ours? I have a quote here by Mother Teresa. Being unwanted, unloved, uncared for, forgotten by everybody, I think that is a much greater hunger, a much greater poverty than the person who has nothing to eat. Mother Teresa, that's right. And we're here for people under assault by the New World Order. Not because we're good, not because we're special, but because we're red-blooded and just want to live and survive. And want to find others that want to survive and be decent. We don't hunger after raping children and stealing property and dominating people and telling people there's no First Amendment. We don't hunger after selling deadly prescription drugs. We don't hunger after endless wars and black uniforms and cameras and power, because we have power. And the only crime of good people is that we don't use our power to smash and crush the maggots that are the New World Order. We're going to come back with an incredible woman, Sibel Edmonds, straight ahead, one of the biggest whistleblowers in modern history, probably the biggest. I mean, words cannot describe this. Witness to the criminals that run our government, running al-Qaeda and staging 9/11. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this special edition of Infowars Nightly News. At the end of this next interview, we've got something really special coming up, so be sure and stay with us. But right now, we've got something incredibly important. They call Daniel Ellsberg of the Pentagon Papers, the most famous and most important whistleblower in modern U.S. history. Well, he just leaked some CIA Rand Corporation documents that the war was being lost in Vietnam and was really just about war profiteering. And so they wanted it to keep going forever. And the objectives that they had claimed to bring freedom had nothing to do with it. It was about opium and a lot more. Quite frankly, what Daniel Ellsberg talked about pales in significance to Sibel Edmonds, a FBI translator going over top security clearance, NSA intercepts. She went to work for him 3 days after 9/11, and she looked at intercepts from the mid-90s right up until 9/11. And what she saw blew her away. She went to Congress and was gagged. The information that she was able to see confirms everything that we've reverse engineered on the outside, that 9/11 was a synthetic false flag staged event. Al-Qaeda is a creation of Western intelligence to menace the West so they can take our liberties, but also bring down other regimes in the area that try to be more sensible and build up their society. The jihadis basically are a group just turned loose by the globalists, the banking interests that dominate our country and Europe, to destroy Arab and Muslim nations that try to build up. And that's the whole history. You know, they admit Mujahideen was founded by the CIA, but it's a lot deeper than that. Look at how Al-Qaeda has been used. You know, one thing Bush said was the terrorists attacked us because they hate our freedom. And the people with Bush and now Obama have destroyed our liberties and our freedoms to a cartoon level. I mean, it's so off the charts. It's like a comic book or something. NDAA, secret arrests, light posts that listen to you, drones in the skies, TSA, molesting people. I guess the terrorists really did attack us because they hated our freedom. The military-industrial complex controlled by foreign banks, they attacked us through their proxies that took the blame because they did hate our freedom. It's actually true. The terrorists did attack us. It's the criminal elements of the government and the megacorporations who are the terrorists, and they do hate our freedoms because our freedoms and our Bill of Rights and due process would put all of them in jail for the insider trading, the trillions in banker bailouts, and the looting and criminality we see right now. And all over the world, an iron curtain of tyranny is descending over nations under the guise of 9/11 and terrorism. But in the front of the paper, not even in the back, they admit Al-Qaeda are heroes in Libya, funded by NATO, the CIA, Mossad, and others, and now in Syria. The U.S. Ambassador Rice to the UN, she said 2 weeks ago, she said, Assad, there'll be more bombings of your government buildings if you don't step down. And who's bombing them? Al-Qaeda, trained in Turkey and other areas and brought in by the United States, the so-called U.S., the criminals that have hijacked us. And all this is done in our name. The lady we're about to talk to is an inside whistleblower who witnessed this, and they've threatened her with jail time for violating national security. That national security now means their criminal actions if she exposes who Al-Qaeda was really working for on 9/11. And she has a new book out that we're going to be telling you about as well. But even the ACLU calls her the most classified woman and one of the biggest whistleblowers in history. And again, we have to pray for her and support her and get her book because she is right now facing the potential of them threatening to come arrest her for publishing this book. Sibel, good to have you on with us.
Thank you for having me on again, Alex.
Well, we had you on the radio yesterday, but now I just want to sit back, and I've got some questions later, but in the next 15 minutes or so, you've got the floor.
Okay. Go ahead, start with a question, and I'll get going.
Well, just tell people how it all began. I mean, because last time I directed the questions. In this interview, I want you to be able, you know, if you were addressing millions of people, which you are, I'm asking you, what would you say to them? What's most important in your huge story that's been confirmed?
Well, the most important thing is, what is our government doing? What has it been doing? And why they have been covering up what they have been doing for so long. Because, you know, if you're not engaged in something really wrong, outrageous, you won't have this need to cover up. You won't have to classify 5 million documents every single day. That's what they do. There are billions of documents. These are government documents. This is supposed to be the government of the people, for the people, by the people. So if you have billions of documents kept secret, if you have the government who issues gag orders on government insiders who come forward and dare to report on government's own wrongdoing, criminal operations, criminal activities, waste, fraud, abuse, how can this government be a government of the people, for the people, by the people? You have all these classifications, all these cover-ups. You have gag orders. We have had, since Obama became president, we have had 7 government whistleblowers prosecuted. Look, even Dan Ellsberg didn't go to jail. And guess what? Outside Dan Ellsberg, we haven't had a whistleblower that has been indicted, ever. And just in this short period, we have had this president, the so-called liberal president, that has convicted 7 government whistleblowers. Their crime? Coming out, letting the public know that their government is engaged in criminal activities all over the world and here in the United States, whether it's torture, whether billions of dollars. Look at all these people who can't afford in our country to pay for their medical bills, okay? Look at the state of our schools, our libraries. And our government, with all this deficit that we have, Alex, you know it. I mean, I don't want to be preaching to the choir here. Wasting every month billions of dollars. You know why? Because it is not accountable. One of the examples I give people is, if you witness a crime, you know, murder, burglary, what do? Usually you go and take out your cell phone and you call the police. What if you witness your government, the police, is committing some heinous crime? Who do you have to call? If you look at the federal courts since 9/11, find one case where the federal court has not sided with the government and helped the government cover up, whether by accepting secrecy and state secrets privilege, or just plain going and indict a whistleblower.
And they have a name for that. It's called tyranny. Please continue.
It is. And you know, when we come, whether we the government insiders who have come out and they say we blew the whistle, we basically told the people what we saw being done to our national security, to our welfare, national welfare, by our own government, that if you come out and say it, you say it in your show every day, I say it, right? They call us the radicals, the nutcases. These are the marginal people. There are 9/11 crooks. Oh, the other one is a conspiracy theorist. They have now put millions of Americans in this bucket with the help of the mainstream media. And I always add, Alex, with the help of the alternative, quasi-alternative media. A lot of people think, oh yeah, well, I'm not reading Washington Post or New York Times. I am reading so-and-so. Go look who's funding so-and-so. It's actually on their website. If it says Rockefeller and Soros and Carnegie, are you reading alternative views and news? Are you under that illusion? So when I say with the media, they are, because more and more people are waking up and the number is increasing, the number that our government and our media designate as nutcases, conspiracy theorists. That's what we are, millions of us. You know, it's like the story of this king and this poisoned well. And those who refused to drink the poisoned water and didn't go crazy were being pointed out to and say, you know, people, majority, 95, look at these crazy people. Well, we haven't been drinking the government poisoned water. And because of that, we are being persecuted. We are being marginalized. And this is what this book is about. A lot of, unfortunately, whistleblowers, and this is also by design by many of these nonprofit organizations, industrial complex, because they have become an industry. Millions, hundreds of millions of dollars are being poured by those big 1% into these so-called NGOs. And these NGOs have not secret, open partnership with the government. They want whistleblowers to whine and to come out and say, I'm a victim, look at me, look what they've done to me. They ruined my life. Did they ruin my life? Yes. Did they fire me? Yes. But what I did with this book was to show people what government tried to do to the American people, what it has been doing to the American people, taking away their right to know. Because as long as people are uninformed, they can go on. They have been expanding. So I put in this one book, the book that government has been fighting for 383 days now. They have been saying you are not allowed to publish a single word in this book. My attorneys and I kept sending letters to them saying, cite a law. Oh, well, we're going to cite the classification. We have to redact and we have to redact everything. I said, well, you had 30 days to do that. We are moving forward. We are armed, you know, by our First Amendment is on our side, and we're going to do it. Because we have to push it. Every time we have an opportunity, we have to push it. If we just sit and take it, every day is going to get worse. Today, they started by having us remove our shoes, Alex. But you know, one of the things that for me it's ironic is if you step back and look at people removing their shoes, what do you see? We actually bend over, right? This is like bending over before the kings. There they are, the government badge people. We are untying our shoes, bending over, removing our shoes. Psychologically, they are training us to see them as the superior gods, you know, like the Greek gods.
Well, what about the famous photos in film of people in Nazi Germany stripping down and going into the facilities? It is psychological warfare. You take the shoes off, then it's the belt off, the coat. Now we're going to put you in a scanner. Now we're going to touch you on top of the scanner. Now we're going to go in your pants. Now we're going to make Miss USA cry. Now we're going to take your child, your 2-year-old, as they scream away, and we're going to strip search them behind closed doors. Now we're going to take old ladies behind closed doors. We're going to exercise power over you. It's totally clear the terrorists attacked us because they hate our freedom. The terrorists are the people that hijacked our government. But for people that don't know who you are, or have just seen the headlines in the news, recap the fact that there you were as a language specialist for the FBI at the highest levels of national security, looking at all these NSA intercepts. You know, you had these degrees. You believed in the system, you said yesterday on the radio. You go to work and then walk people through the process of telling Congress what happened. And for those that don't know, when you've worked in the national security system, which is actually the national tyranny system, you know, secure the criminal takeover, but you don't know it. When you work in there, now you've signed all these agreements. So you're one of the few whistleblowers to go public at this level. And they are threatening you right now. That's very important.
Because they want to set some sort of a precedence. They did it with my case, Alex, with state secrets privilege. As you said, I took the job, and you know how 20 years, 15 years later, they were so open, our government, saying, oh yeah, we worked with the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, including bin Laden in 1980s, because that was when we had this big, grand Cold War. We were trying to defeat the Soviet. So we forged these partnerships. They ended there. I went to work for the FBI, and I dealt with these operations, investigations of operations that dealt with the time frame 1996 till 2001, these operations, these files. Under FBI's counterintelligence, and counter-espionage investigations under those two units. And not only me, but with the agents who also knew this, they were also aggravated by this, they were also outraged by this. You could see that, well, the Cold War never ended. Those partnerships never ended. In 1996, until 2001, until right after September 11, we were still partners with the same organizations, these factions from Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Egypt. And what we were doing, we were creating, and I believe we are still doing that. I have been out of the FBI, but I don't believe that they stopped these operations and creating terror cells, put them in Central Asia and Caucasus. These resource-rich, oil-rich, natural gas-rich region that used to be part of the Soviet Union. Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. So it never ended. That partnership never ended. And they were working with Zawahiri, Ayman Zawahiri, they were working with bin Laden, they were working with several other groups that were from Middle East, including governmental groups, including certain faction of Pakistani government, to very openly create terror cells in Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and this went on till 9/11 and then continued until February 2002. February 2002 was when, for the first time, I went outside the FBI, I went to the Inspector General's office, I went to Congress, and these operations, if they continued before 9/11 and after 9/11, that story does not match the story of bin Laden is most wanted. We have this war against Al-Qaeda. By the way, they never refer to them as Al-Qaeda. It was never Al-Qaeda. Within these operation files that we had in the FBI, it was never. We actually said bin Laden groups, and bin Laden was plural. It was not only Osama bin Laden. There were 4 other bin Laden families. Some of them from US, $150 million, together with certain prince, together with 2 people from State Department, 1998, going to Azerbaijan for the opening of 5 mosques and madrasas combined. These are the religious schools. They were together in this partnership. They established over 300 madrasas and mosques combined, because some of these madrasas are part of these mosques. They built 300 mosques in Central Asia and Caucasus in 6 years. You want to see the documents? They are not hiding. They can classify mosques. Go find out who paid for those mosques, Alex. Not the people in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan and Uzbekistan.
No, U.S. taxpayers. This even came out in the Washington Post shortly after 9/11.
And heroin money. Because they keep giving this story to people about, on one hand, they come and they say currently the opium production, the value, street value is somewhere between 100 and 150 billion dollars, okay? This is Time magazine, these disgusting people, Time magazine. Then they have this picture of these really bearded guys in Afghanistan, with their white shalwar. They are the farmers. So they want to give this illusion that $150 billion industry is operated by these guys. By these guys, most of them can't write, read. They don't have bank accounts, Alex. And that's the picture they show you. This $150 billion industry involves banks, involves military planes, involves private planes to transport, involve labs. Those labs, they need chemicals, okay? They need equipments. How can a guy in a shalwar produce, let's put 5,000 of them. And if that's the case, the street value is $150 billion, Alex. Well, the GDP of Afghanistan currently is $4 billion. $3 billion of it comes from us directly aid. Obviously, it is not in Afghan economy.
Well, Sibel, let me just stop you right there because
Don't ask that question though in the media.
Sure, no, that's important. Let me just stop you right there because you're somebody who was seeing all these communiques, and that confirms what we know now. But why are they trying to block your book when it was first being published, when now everything you're saying for 10 years is mainstream news. I mean, it's hidden in the news, but it's like, yes, NATO is funding al-Qaeda to take over Libya and Syria. And yes, opium production is now 93% of world production in Afghanistan from less than 10%. And they have the troops on TV saying we're forced to grow the opium. They don't even hide it. And you're using the old argument people used decades ago of hundreds of billions in drug money. It's being laundered by the big banks. Now it's come out that Wachovia and Wells Fargo and all these guys are laundering the money. It's not even hidden. So people always say, well, there'd be whistleblowers if something like this was happening.
We have had several whistleblowers.
Exactly. We've had whistleblowers. This is going on. It's clear what's happening, but specifically getting into the communiques, right up, because you were on my show a few years ago and you said, when you first started, breaking your gag order, you said the West was commanding al-Qaeda, including senior people, right up until 9/11. So, I mean, I want you to go into that, and you talked about money, guns, drugs, things like that, the types of things you saw going on.
You said that, and before I get into that, Alex, you say, well, everybody knows, so what's the big deal? 98% of people don't. Alex, you may be fortunate to be surrounded by people who are informed. They are the ones who go to real alternatives. Okay, so let's say you have 1 or 2 or 3 million listeners, people who go and read. That's it. And take a look at that percentage. I mean, those people who are tuning into Larry King, the ones at the airport, they're rushing through and buying the Newsweek and Time magazines. My neighbors' friends, my daughter's friend's mother, they don't know. In fact, you won't believe this. Nobody knows in my neighborhood who's Sibel Edmonds. They've never heard of it. Yeah, it wasn't CBS 60 Minutes. Somebody may recall there was some FBI whistleblower, but you're talking about these issues, and thanks to the quasi-alternative media and the mainstream media, you're looking at a very small percentage who read, let's say, Peter Dale Scott, and they listen to your shows, and they are, they're exposed to what we're exposing. Thankfully, the number is going up. This is why I started my site as well. But with this book, the government knows this is not a mainstream book. This book, nobody can see it in bookstores. You know why? Because the top tier publishers, they said, oh, we believe it will sell very good, but we're not going to touch this. At this point, this case is still in some ways hot. We don't want to be in the wrong side of the FBI. Another publisher said, American people, they like to read in political books like this, one side or another. It's either Republican or if it's Democrat. You're coming and trashing all of them, saying they're all corrupt, they're all awful. Well, that doesn't happen. Well, yeah,
you're exposing, like Ron Paul, the whole phony game, but more and more the people do know the emperor is wearing no clothes. But, I mean, let's be specific. You tried to go through the establishment route. The FBI is supposed to have a month to either cut stuff out or argue that. They set on a year. Go over the threats you've gone through, that whole process.
Sure. See, I started working with the FBI 3 days after 9/11. This is September 14, September 15, 2001. I am naive. I have a master's degree in public policy. I'm a first-generation immigrant. I'm a great believer of this great nation of separation of powers and system of checks and balances, freedom. I mean, I was active, my family. I mean, if you read this book, you understand where I come from. My father was tortured by Iran's Shah, okay? His toenails were pulled. He was a surgeon. He was a doctor. Do you know why, Alex? Because in his possession, he had 2 books. One of them was Steinbeck, okay? So that landed my father in jail. So I come from that background. I thought I'm in a country, all I have to do, like most Americans, I go and vote every 4 years. Everything seems to be taken care of, like many Americans believe. Just eat hot dogs, it's 4th of July, yeehaw, just celebrate. Well, that was the mentality I had when I went working for the FBI. And I signed these documents, classification documents, saying you are getting top secret clearance. Anytime during your life, not only when you're working for the FBI, if you ever write anything that is nonfiction related to the FBI and what you saw here, what you worked on here, has to be vetted by us. You have to submit it to us, the government, the Justice Department, FBI. We'll go through it with our marker. And my God, we are God because we are not answerable to anyone. And we redact. You can't say this. You can't say this. Oh, this is highly embarrassing. You can't say this either. Then you can go fight it in court. Go spend $300,000, get attorneys who are charging $500 per hour, fight for years. I signed it, and I didn't even think about it twice. Today, this is just a side note, Alex, we have over 6-7 million people in America who have, top secret clearance. They don't realize what they have done. These people who are signing because they are contractor with the government. I mean, I know guys who are the computer technicians, but because they do something in Langley, they have to sign this documents, meaning they don't realize that they are signing away their First Amendment right. So those documents are illegal, not illegal maybe, but unconstitutional in the first place. Who says that you have to give up? It's one thing to say you cannot disclose methods of intelligence gathering, be specific, but they are not specific in these documents. Anyhow, I went in there, green, idealistic. I started working and I started seeing these issues. Some of them were major bureaucratic bunglings and competence related. Others were pure criminal espionage related. And of course, the most important ones dealt with these operations that were being shut down, and this is FBI's investigation of it by the State Department and the CIA, because FBI wanted to pursue these cases, believe me or not. Not guys like Mueller on the top, okay? They are part of the same corrupt, rotten system. You're looking at agents level, these guys, they felt patriotic. They were outraged. They were, excuse my language, they were pissed that the CIA and the State Department was ruling the FBI, saying,
well, that's what I found. That's what I found in 17 years of investigating government and corporate crime at every level. Generally, the men and women at the grassroots are really good, dedicated people, and they're either really naive and buy into the false narrative they're given to carry out tyranny, or it's their job and their career and they got kids, they just kind of keep quiet but never go up the chain because they won't do bad stuff. I know some Austin police who are really good guys, and they wouldn't do things that they see are, is illegal, and so they got busted down from like detectives back down to beat cops. I mean, it's just like the movies. It's just like Serpico. And we just need to realize it's getting worse. The corrupt and the national security state since 47. Unlimited money, unlimited secrecy. They're running the drugs, they're running the child kidnapping, they're running it all. And we have all the other whistleblowers from government and FBI agents with the hijackers training at military bases and training, and hey, they want to fly into buildings. Those were people testing security, we've learned. They were agents trained at bases who were set up themselves. Hey, let's see if you can get through the airport and get on the plane. We know Ada and others have been doing that for months before. I've talked to the head of the U.S. Embassy, Springman, who later learned that they were flagged as al-Qaeda, but told, let them into the U.S. This is about 10 months before 9/11 when they were coming back in from an al-Qaeda summit. They thought they were double agents. They were told, oh, they're CIA, let them in. The underwear bomber, gotten on the plane by the U.S. government. That's admitted. C-SPAN, State Department hearings. The latest guy, CIA double agent. Well, first it was, al-Qaeda. They find out he's CIA. They go, yes, double agent. I mean, it's purely manufactured. And that's what's sick. They're not only killing millions of people in Iraq and overseas and all this. That's bad. But they really do want to overthrow the U.S. and make us slaves as well. So for yuppies and people, they go, so what if we kill the Arabs or whatever, because they're racist or whatever. Understand, folks, good old boys, you're next. Now we're told the threat's domestic. It's the libertarians. It's the Ron Pauls. It's the Alex Joneses. It's the whistleblowers. They don't care about Iraqis. They don't care about Afghans or folks in Pakistan. They don't care about anybody, and they really hate America. These foreign banks that have hijacked America, Sibel, I mean, you've been in the middle of it, but they're admitting Goldman Sachs has conquered Europe. Now they're conquering us through fraud. This is global corporate ruthless espionage where they're attacking everybody and playing us off against each other and making money off all sides. It's full spectrum dominance. And when the Pentagon talks about that, they don't just mean air, sea, land, cyber, all that. propaganda, psyop, infowar. They really mean they even create the enemy. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's full spectrum dominance. And they even soft kill the troops with vaccines and DU they know is going to kill them. I mean, this is masterfully done.
Absolutely. So these agents, they were on our side. But as you said, the agent that, one particular agent that I worked with, and he was outraged, he was disgusted. In fact, he was the one who actually first tried to expose some of these issues. He said, my wife is not working, okay? She's a homemaker. I have 2 daughters, 3 years old and 5 years old. I can't lose this job. Don't you understand? Plus, even if we were to go out and blow the whistle, do you think anybody's going to do anything about it? And this was when he told me, he said, you and I know from our own investigations, our unit's investigations of 12, 13 elected representatives who are criminals, all criminals, okay? They accept foreign bribery, the ones involved in Chicago, 2 of them, they actually dealt directly with the heroin mob in Chicago, in Illinois. So we know of 13. How many do you think other units have under them that they have exposed? So if you're going to go to Congress and report Sibel, how are you going to determine who's clean? How you are going to determine that? At the time, I thought he was jaded. At the time, I thought he was being too cynical because I was naive. I mean, I was naive in every step, because even after my eyes were open, as far as Congress was concerned, I was following these issues in courts because I believed in better, of course. Then my eyes were open after that process. And after that, it was the non-governmental industrial complex, the NGOs, the whistleblower organization, the civil liberties related organizations, and the whole dynamics there. And of course, the mainstream media. So I got crash education, and it contradicted everything I studied for my master's degree in the universities here. Everything
it's all a false web, literally a false habitat of false opposition, false groups. So everything falls in. They've got it all worked out in a multifaceted level, but there's a giant grassroots. From my research, I got to tell you, I'm one of the few only real things that's large and not controlled. Ron Paul, he really won the first primaries. He would be the nominee. He'd be the president. They stopped him.
Let that happen. They will fight it. They've been fighting it. Of all the people for the past 11 years, I said I will not even look at any of these politicians except for Ron Paul. He's the only one. He's been the only one. And look, it's the government and it's their mouthpiece, the mainstream media and the quasi-alternative media. The false reporting is just you think that people would see that these people are making a gigantic fool out of themselves. I mean, here, like he's a second, they skip number 2. They go to 3, 4, 5. This tells you how threatened the establishment is from this man, because he is just like the whistleblowers. He's exception to the rule, okay? He's the only one in Congress that I know of. Maybe there are others, but I haven't come across any of them. And he's been like this sore, and they don't know how to get rid of him. So they're trying very hard. But also the harder they try, the more obvious becomes that how threatened they are by this one man, which tells you the power of it. This is why I get upset, because I'm talking with these people, Alex, and they say, well, you know, what are you going to do? You know, if you're going to be either Romney or Obama. And I say, why don't you vote third candidate, an alternative? They automatically, they say, oh, they're not electables. I say, who says so? And they can't explain. Do you know why? They don't know why they are saying it. They see it on the media. They see it on the newspaper. They hear it every day. Oh, Larry King. Oh, yeah. Even when they say Ron Paul is cool, I like him. Of course, he's not electable. Well, you say that 100 times a day, people are going to start like parrots repeating it. And so when I grill them, I say, why do you think he is not electable? What if you and everyone who says Ron Paul is not electable, a third party, third candidate, independent is not electable, go and cast a vote and say, I'm going to do it because I'm disgusted with the two anyway. I'm not going to take the lesser of the two evils because what is it? One ranks 100 in the scale of being evil, and the other one ranks 99. I'm going to vote for the other guy who's 99% evil. Great. That's not the mentality we need. What will happen if you cast vote and everybody who says that there is this, again, media, education system, universities, the academia, they repeat it. This is like brainwashing. So people walking around like robots saying, oh, I think Ron Paul is a great guy, but he's not electable. Why? Well, you know, he's just not electable. He's just too different, and he doesn't, but they can't really put anything. Then some of the other ones, they say things like this, oh, because he's racist. I say, really? Leslie, I come from Middle Eastern background. I'm female. What makes you say Ron Paul is racist? Give me an example. They say, oh, I don't remember. I read New York Times said how he's with the skinheads. You see, this is the psychological warfare. This is the psyops. Psyops are not geared for Iraq or Afghanistan. The psyops happening here with elections in the United States on daily basis. How many people are exposing that we are under psyops? And you know what? When you and I say this, Alex, nutcases. Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones was interviewing conspiracy nutcase Sibel Edmonds. And they said, we have this great scheme. Well, it is a great scheme. Because when I hear people repeat these things, when I ask them why and they can't answer, they've been programmed. Who programmed them? You tell me, Alex, you know this.
Well, you're right. It's true, and they just use these little throwaway terms. But then you've got things like Building 7. The list just goes on and on. But people are waking up more and more to the fact that they're being lied to. They just feel powerless. And as more whistleblowers go public, slowly but surely, now it's accelerating, more have the courage to come forward. I mean, obviously...
Alex, I don't know. I mean, you are right. More and more people are waking up. I agree with you, but whistleblowers, this man Obama has done more damage for these people, truth tellers, to come from inside the government than any other president.
Sure, but why are you going public then? I mean, they wouldn't have